By then, the work had already moved elsewhere. That gap between who builds the targeting and who answers for what it selects has been chosen at every step, not by accident, by procurement. 9 years, one small contract that became the backbone of military targeting, 20,000 users. One platform, no government could switch off at the speed of war demands. One company drew a red line against autonomous targeting. The line was crossed and the system kept running. The safeguard was only ever as strong as the contract behind it. So who actually holds that line?
Let's get into it.
This is the Hamberger Report. I'm Andreas Hamberger, Enterprise Architect, Wellington. In early 2026, a single software platform generated more than 1,000 targeting coordinates in the first 24 hours of a military operation, faster than any team of humans could review them. That system did not appear from nowhere. Its foundations were laid almost a decade earlier by engineers at a private technology company who built the capability, then tried to walk away from it. This is the story of the corporate kill chain, how the work of finding and fixing a target was handed to private industry, how the people who built it refused to continue, and how that refusal moved the contract without changing the capability. The accountability gap this series has traced through governments now runs straight through the supply chain of the companies those governments buy from. In 2017, the United States Department of Defense began a program to apply artificial intelligence to military drone footage. It was called Project Maven. The work of analyzing the imagery went to a private contractor, Google. The contract was small, by defense standards, around $9 million, a one-year agreement to build computer vision models that could scan hours of surveillance video and flag objects of interest, vehicles, buildings, people. The military had far more footage than human analysts could ever watch. The promise of Maven was that a machine would watch it instead and tell a human where to look. This was not a weapon. It was the layer directly above the weapon, the system that decides what counts as a target before anyone in the chain sees it. Google's leadership took the contract quietly. Most of the company did not know it existed. When the engineers found out, the response was immediate. In April 2018, more than 3,000 Google employees signed an open letter to the company's chief executive. The first line was blunt. The company should not be in the business of war. Dozens of engineers resigned. 2 months later, Google announced it would not renew the Maven contract when it lapsed and published a set of artificial intelligence principles, promising it would not design or field AI for weapons. For a moment, the walkout looked like it had won. It had not. The company withdrew from a $10 billion military cloud contract that same year, then re-entered the defense market through other agreements. In early 2025, the clause promising never to build AI for weapons was quietly removed from the principles page. The capability Maven represented did not disappear when Google stepped back. It moved. The only thing that changed was whose name sat on the contract. The company that took the space Google left did not sell a single product. It sold a platform. Palantir, a data analytics firm, built the operating system for military targeting itself. Its founder had argued for years that the aim of a business is not to compete, but to build something no rival can replace. The platform did exactly that. It pulled satellite feeds, sensor data, signals intelligence, and drone imagery into one interface that turned raw information into ranked targets. By early 2026, more than 20,000 military users were working inside it, up from around 5,000 18 months earlier. The system had become a program of record, permanent procurement, not a trial. Next Friday's episode turns to Ukraine, the first conflict where civilian volunteers, commercial satellites, and machine-assisted targeting combined at full operational scale, and where the question of who authorized what became almost impossible to answer. The Hamberger Report publishes daily across 7 series, and this series runs every Friday through to late August. The history this episode has set out is also a present-day procurement record. The frameworks meant to govern lethal autonomous capability already exist. They are mature documents, and most buyers never invoke them. Article 36 of the 1977 Additional Protocol 1 to the Geneva Conventions requires every state to review a new weapon for compliance with international humanitarian law before it is fielded. United States Department of Defense Directive 3000.09 governs autonomous functions in weapons systems. These are named accountability standards, and they are decades old. For boards and chief information officers in New Zealand buying artificial intelligence decision support tools, the relevant question is not whether a vendor has ever touched the defense market. It is whether the contract makes the system's outputs reconstructible and held to a named standard, and whether those safeguards survive a change in the vendor's commercial position or ownership. The same platforms that rank targets in this episode are now sold into commercial enterprise. The frameworks exist. Invoking them is the buyer's decision. One of the AI companies supplying these systems had drawn a line. It would not allow its models to be used for fully autonomous targeting or for mass surveillance. Those were written conditions, published commitments. In early 2026, the platform was used at scale in a military operation. More than 1,000 targeting coordinates generated in the first day at a tempo no human review process was built to match. The government then designated the AI company as supply chain risk to national security, a label until then reserved for firms linked to foreign adversaries, and ordered agencies to stop using its models. The company refused to drop its conditions and went to court. A federal judge granted a temporary injunction. Through all of it, the model kept running inside the platform, because by then it was embedded too deeply to switch off at the speed a war demanded. Another AI company moved to take the space. The red line held in writing. It did not hold in operation. Across this episode, the same pattern repeats. A capability is built. The people who build it raise an objection. The objection moves the contract without changing the capability. None of it required a malfunction. Every step was a decision. Someone chose to outsource the targeting layer to private industry. Someone chose to accept a contract. Someone chose to write a safeguard. And someone chose to keep the system running when that safeguard was tested. The gap between who builds the targeting and who answers for what it selects was not left open by accident. It was procured, one contract at a time, by buyers who treated accountability as someone else's clause. The frameworks to close it exist. The engineers who refused proved the objection can be raised. What is missing is the discipline to make the objection bind. So here is the question: when the safeguard is only as strong as the contract behind it, who actually holds the line?
That is the Hamburger Report for today. If this was useful, subscribe and hit the like button. It helps more professionals find the channel. You will find links to everything we covered in the description below. I am Andreas Hamberger, and I will see you tomorrow.
Like and subscribe.